Right. So welcome everyone. My name is Veronica Bilot. I'm the Student Success Librarian and the English Subject Specialist and Political Science Subject Specialist in the library system. So thank you for attending our Library Research Series workshop today, getting to know Zotero. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about what citation managers are, what they do, and then we're going to learn how to use Zotero. There he is. To help us with managing and using our citations as we're writing. So at any point, if you have questions, you please feel free to either put them in the chat, or if you want to unmute, you can ask a question also. Just to let you know, I will be stopping at places along the way and making sure that I check in with people and ask them if they have questions. The other thing I wanted to make sure that you know is if I'm ever describing something on the screen and that is not what you're seeing, please stop me. I won't be offended and tell me I'm not seeing that, so that I can make sure that that you're seeing what I intend you to see, because sometimes it's difficult to tell when you're doing a screen share what is actually being shared. So what we're going to do first is just kind of talk about what citation managers are. So citation managers are software or apps that organize your citations. And the more sophisticated ones that are actual citation management software or applications like Zotero, RefWorks, and EndNote, they allow you to do things like create folders for organizing your information sources, to create a tagging system so that you can add your own identifier tags to those, and also provide for sharing, so you can share those folders that and citations that you've collected with others. Maybe somebody you might be working on a group project with, might be writing a paper with, whatever that might be. They allow you to ingest citations from a variety of sources, including PDFs, web resources that you find, and databases. So one of the things I'll be running through today is showing you, if you have a large collection of PDF articles that are all over the place in your computer, there is a way that you can ingest those into a citation app like Zotero. And if it can find the citation information, what we call the metadata, in that particular PDF file, it will also bring that in. And that's a really nice way to get started quickly. Citation managers allow you to create notes within each information source that you've saved. So you can write yourself notes on those different sources if you need to, and those can be retrieved later. They also allow you to attach PDF, Word documents, and other kinds of savable resources to a particular information source citation that you have saved. And then finally, citation managers have utilities that allow you to create bibliographies and citations in a variety of different citation models. So you can use APA, MLA, Chicago style, Harvard, medical citations. There's just a huge variety that you could choose from. So you don't have to make a commitment to one. And if you move between using a variety of citation styles, it will accommodate that. And you can do this, these citation managers allow you to do this both on the fly and in word processing programs like Word, Google Docs, and in Zotero, it also supports LibreOffice, which is an open source word processing program. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first question might be, why am I going to be showing Zotero? So one of the reasons I like Zotero is that, first of all, it's not any kind of subscription required unless you need more storage space, but the free version is pretty adequate. It's open sourced. It's supported by an open community of builders and users. It is portable, so it doesn't matter whether you are a Wayne student or not. It's not something that we subscribe to exclusively. It is good for capturing information both on the web and through licensed library resources. And it has the ability to create both something on your own computer and do a backup to the web. And they have a web version for you. So before I go any further and start showing Zotero, are there any questions about citation managers in general? Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and move forward. I'm going to share my screen here, and the first thing I'm going to do is, there we go. So I'm going to share my whole screen because I end up moving between a lot of different programs, and it's just a lot easier that way. So the first thing we're going to do is just show you what Zotero looks like. So this is Zotero.org. This is the website that you're going to be going to download a version of Zotero onto your computer. So when you get to Zotero and get started, the first thing you need to do before you do that download is to, here it's recognizing me because I'm logged in, but you're going to create an account. And creating an account is a really important first step in creating your Zotero, because what it allows you to do is more easily sync and do some other things. You don't have to go back and sort of retrofit. So make sure that you create your account, and then you will use this download button to download a copy of the Zotero program to your own computer. Zotero works on both Windows and Mac and Linux formats, operating systems, I should say. So you can download a copy for that. And then over here, when you are downloading Zotero, it also asks you to download a connector. It will detect what browser you're in. Right now I'm in Chrome. So it says it's asking me to download the Chrome connector. And the Chrome connector will ultimately sit on your Chrome browser. And right now I'm pointing up here to the top where the extensions are. And you'll see when I put my mouse over this little piece of paper, a pop-up comes up and it says Save to Zotero. This is a Zotero connector, and this allows us to scrape citation information off of web pages and add that to our Zotero library. So we'll be learning how to do that in just a few minutes. Once I have downloaded my Zotero program and the connector, then I can open my Zotero program. So here is a window of my Zotero program. Now, I've got a lot of citations. I've used Zotero a long time, so there's a lot of information sitting in here. But of course, when you first do this, it's going to be empty. One of the first things you might want to do as somebody who is first starting out with Zotero is, if you have a whole bunch of PDFs of articles just randomly or even well organized sitting on your computer, what you want to do is pull in those PDFs into Zotero. And what you might want to do is, over here on the right, you can replicate your storage strategy that you have. So if you have a bunch of folders already, you could just add a new folder. So let's say I have a folder called, I don't know, assessment. So oops, I already have one called that. Let's say I have a folder called student work, student achievement. How's that? So I'm going to just create this student achievement folder, and you'll see it puts it over here. And this is just like, any other sort of foldering structure. And so what I would do is I would go ahead and open my File Explorer. If you're in Safari, you would open where your files are. And I'm going to go ahead and just see if I can find a bunch of PDFs here. Let's see. I'm just going to look for my Dropbox. Sorry about that. Let's see if we can find some documents. Here we go. So let's see if we can just find some articles here that we can put in. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have had, I thought my Dropbox was handily available. I'm going to try that one more time. Sorry, this is a little torturous. There we go. See if we can get my Dropbox to open up. Ah, there we are. Okay. And I'm just going to get some articles here. So let's say I've got these articles that are in my folder that I would like to bring over. So I'm just going to highlight these in my File Explorer. I've got my student achievement folder selected. It's grade. It's a little bit light, but I'm going to just pull these into that student achievement folder. And you'll see what happens right now is that PDF metadata retrieval box is coming up. And what Zotero is trying to do is it is trying to see from those PDFs that I've pulled in, can it find the elements it needs to create the citations? So in other words, can it find author, title, journal title, volume issue date? Is that information sitting in that PDF? And we were actually pretty successful. I was able to find 4 of those. And this top one, when just the PDF still appears, it's saying, what Zotero is saying, sorry, whatever this PDF was, I can't find what I need to be able to create a site, to fill in those citation elements for you. But in this one here, you'll see what's happened over on the right is that it has created a file to go along with that PDF. And by the way, I'll just click this little arrow. You can see the PDF is now attached to it. And it's put in all of the citation elements. So we've got the journal title, volume, issue, pages, article title, the authors, all of this it pulled off of the PDF. So when that doesn't happen, you need to go ahead and fill it in manually. But when it does happen, and to fill it in manually, you would have to actually create, I think, a new, yeah, because this is just a PDF. So I would have to create a new like journal article file and then attach that PDF to it. Just gonna move that to trash. There we go. And so for all of these, you'll see that there has been information created. All right. So this one here is a little bit empty, and that's going to happen sometimes. It was able to pull the title and the author, but not much else. So I would have to look at this item and see what it is. So this is an article from the Chronicle of Higher Education. And I would have to go in and, so this is from October 19th, 2010. I'd have to go into here and probably put that date. And fill in the information, the data that's missing. So that happens occasionally, but this is an easy way to populate Zotero right from the get-go. So let's talk a little bit about the interface here. So as I said, this is the Zotero program. This is what gets downloaded onto your computer when you go to the download on the zotero.org. And what it has is a way to organize your citations. So we've got a My Library, and everything that is in there always sits in the My Library. And then we have these folders. So you can pull anything from a library into a folder. And what it does is it doesn't create a duplicate as much as it creates like a copy that also, it's not a duplicate copy. The original is always going to sit in the My Library, but it's a copy that you can easily access in that folder. So what's nice is that the same article can live in multiple folders. So especially when you're working on like a master's thesis or dissertation, you might have the same article in several different folders. You might have it for a paper for one class and maybe another class and maybe your quals, and you might have different folders labeled those things, and you can have that same file sit in those different folders. Each of these items has its own information attached to it. So as we talked about, there is all of the citation information, but then there are also the ability to add notes. So I could add a note to here. And then you can see it adds that little note underneath there, that notation. So I know I've got a note there. I can tag it. So this will bring in any subject headings that are associated with it, if there are subject headings associated with it, or other kinds of tags with the original file. But I could also add my own. So maybe Dr. Ben is my instructor, and I want to make sure any article he gave to me also has this tag on it. So I could search by these tags and find all articles associated with Dr. Ben. The other thing you can do in Zotero, and I really find this interesting, is you can add related articles. So maybe you're reading this one and you're like, oh, that's just like this other article. I want to make sure that anytime I cite one, I cite the other. I can just do an add, and I can find that other article and add it to it. And so it hasn't pulled it out of anything, but it gives me a way to access that information. So again, you don't have to use these other things, but they are there if they are of interest to you. And I think that's one of the most important things about a citation manager is you really have to make it part of your workflow and decide how you're going to use it best to help you be more productive and to save time. The other thing that is in Zotero that you'll want to do, and this is on the setup information that I'll be providing you in just a moment, you will be going to the preferences, because you will be setting your preferences for this Zotero account. That's why it's important to create your account in Zotero.org first, because then you can easily set up your sync. So you can sync it with your online Zotero account, and then you will always have a backup. And then you can tell it how you want to do. You could select your default style of export. So if you wanted to default to APA or MLA, you can default to those styles. You can also select and look at the different citation managers available to you and get additional styles. And in the advanced section, you can get a link resolver also. And there's the setup shows you how to set this up. Mine isn't actually correct. I don't know why it was yesterday, but you'll be setting it up so it will talk to the proxy and that's going to help you connect to full text when you need to. The other thing that's really interesting that's available is if you ever had maybe something where you only have the citation and you don't have the full text, you can use this option called Find Full Text. So for like this one here, this citation here, there's no little arrow. So all I have is the citation information, but I don't have the full text of this article. I could use this little green button at the top to do a library lookup. And if I have my library set up properly, right now it's going to WorldCat, which is like not where it's supposed to go. But it would also go to the Wayne State Library and see if it can find that article for me. And there's setup instructions on the guide to using Zotero. And that is where you'll find that information to set that up properly. Okay. I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to stop for a moment and look for some questions, and I'm going to post the guide to getting started with Zotero in the chat. So I'm just going to stop this share for just a second and see if there are any questions or anything that other Zotero users might want to point out at this point that I might have forgotten. All right. So I know that Tammy is new to Zotero. So Tammy, I just wanted to point out to you that I put in the chat our Zotero, like our getting started with Zotero guide. And this will have all of the things that you need to get started. So make sure you got that. All right. Yes, it does have the latest version of APA, and yes, it does keep them updated. Good question. Hi, Monique. Nice to see you. All right. So what we'll do now is we'll move on, because what I want to do is I want to show you how Zotero works to create bibliographies. So let me go ahead. I'm going to go back to our share screen. So just as a FYI, Tammy, this is the getting started with Zotero guide. And if you go down the right, or I'm sorry, the left side of the guide, this kind of takes you in order of the things you need to do. So the getting started page just gives you some general information and also a getting started with Zotero document. And then there's a page on installing Zotero, a page on getting to know Zotero. And by the way, this is a really great video. It's a little bit lengthy, but she does a great job of overviewing all of the nuances of the Zotero program interface, which is really nice. And then it walks you through the rest of the things that you can do in using Zotero. Oh, and you know what? One of the things I wanted to do before I show you the citations is how do you get stuff into Zotero? So we already talked about using the PDFs and just ingesting them, but you can also do several other things. So one thing that you can do is just use a regular old website. So I'm just going to go to the CDC. That's easy. And I'm going to look at talking about vaccines. So maybe I want to save this page, this item here to Zotero. So what I can do is I just come up to the top here where my little Save to Zotero extension is in my Chrome browser. I'm going to click on that. And then you'll see it's saving to my library. So it's creating an entry for me in my Zotero library. And if I go to Zotero, and please tell me if you don't see Zotero, because I forgot if I'm doing the right kind of share. Does everybody see my Zotero library? Okay, I'm going to assume that's a yes. So here is my COVID-19 vaccination entry. And what's really nice about Zotero is not only did it grab as much information as it could off of the web page, but I now have this snapshot. And notice that the path goes to the C drive. So this isn't going to the web. This actually takes a snapshot of the page, creates a file of it, and puts it into a folder that's connected to my Zotero program. So what's really nice about that is I'm not, you know how ephemeral the web can be. I'm always going to have a record of what that page looked like on the day that I saved it. So I really like that about Zotero. The other thing that Zotero can do is Zotero can work with library resources. So if I am, for example, in Summon, which is a way that you can search almost all of the library's full text resources at the same time, and I do a search for like Detroit gentrification. Hello, Arifer. We are just talking about how to get materials into Zotero. And I did record the sessions and it will be sent out to everybody who attended. So you'll be able to access it afterwards. So here we go with our, this is our summon search. And if I click on these three buttons here, you'll notice that I have the option to export to Zotero. I can also use this little save to Zotero, but I have found that if it's native in that particular database or resource, it's better to use theirs. So I'm going to click on Zotero and it's going to, oh, it does a little file. Well, I don't want that. Let's see if I can get it to pull this information. I'm just going to log in with my access ID and password. It took me to the full text of the article. So the closer you can get to the actual full text of the article, the better your import is going to be, just a FYI. So I'm going to click on saving to Zotero. Notice it's pulling in the PDF because the PDF is there. It's got the author and the title. So if I go back to my Zotero program, here it is. It's brought it into Zotero. There's my PDF. There's my full citation. So it does a really good job using I have found with Zotero that using the extension on the browser is probably the best way to bring in your citations. It also works with Google Scholar. Whoops. So just a FYI, if you are using Google Scholar, remember that it's best to start from the library homepage. If you are off-site, it will ask you to log in with your access ID and password, and then you'll always have access to the full text that Wayne State has access to. So I'm just going to try another search here in Google Scholar. So if I click here, I can like pull in all of these citations. But again, I find that these citations directly off the Google Scholar page tend to not be the best when I'm importing them. They seem to always be missing some kind of data. So you can see that you have links to the full text of all these articles, so many of them. So if I click on that full text at Wayne and go to the article link, I'm not going to go to the download PDF. I'm going to go to the article link. And when I go to the article link, I can now go up to Zotero and again, saving it to my library with that PDF. And there it is. And there's my PDF. And it's brought in all of that metadata, all of that information that will help me create a citation. So that's the other way that you can get stuff into Zotero. You can bring in your own PDFs that you've already saved, but the other way is to actually do searches in library resources or just on the web, and you can bring those in. And again, on the library guide that we shared, and I'll make sure I share that again so you have a link to it, Arifer. On the library guide, there's a whole section on adding and editing references. And it shows you how you can import materials. And the only thing you need to do is make sure that you've got this Zotero extension, which you can grab when you download Zotero to your computer. So let me just grab this page really quick. I'm gonna put that in the chat so you guys can pick it up. All right, there we go. All right, so we're at 12:35, so we have just a few minutes left, and in our final moments, I'd like to show you how you can create bibliographies from Zotero. So you can easily just sort of do one-off kind of stuff or a little bit at a few at a time by selecting the citations that you're interested in. So let's say I'm writing my paper, I can just click on the citation, and then I would go to, I can select with my other mouse button. And when I do, a create bibliography from item appears in that drop-down menu. So I can click on that. I can select my style. I can tell it if I want in-text citations or a bibliography. So if I select in-text citation and say copy to clipboard, what it will do is, there's my in-text citation. I can go back to Zotero, do the same thing, create bibliography from item, tell it I want a bibliography, copy to clipboard, open my Word document, and just paste it in. And there is my APA citation in proper style. And it does a really good job, including the italics. So I'm very happy about how it works.
So the last part you show, we just have the Zotero web page on.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question, Arthur.
Oh, I'm saying right. I think your screen is not showing whatever you are saying.
Oh, okay.
I mean, whatever you said, the bibliography to insert it in the text form, it was not we are showing. We're just having your voice. That's it.
Okay, let me go ahead and reshare. Thank you for telling me that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Let me share again. Screen. All right. So you should be seeing the Zotero program right now.
Yeah.
The little box that says Zotero.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm just going to select a citation that I have there and click with my other mouse button. And it brings up a drop-down menu. And I select create bibliography from item. I can select my citation style. And I can select citation or bibliography. If I want the in-text citation formatted, I select citation and say copy to clipboard and say okay. And I'm just going to open up a Word document and paste that in. So there's my in-text citation. And then I can do the same again. I can come here and make sure it's highlighted, click with my other mouse button and say create bibliography from item. Now I'm going to say bibliography, say okay, copy to clipboard. And then I can just paste that citation straight in. And again, it does the proper formatting. Did that come through okay? Okay, great.
Yeah, it's good.
All right. So that's one way to do it. And that's sort of like the low tech way. It doesn't require you to do any kind of integration. You're just having Zotero generate those citations in that format for you and pasting them into a document. But the other thing that Zotero does is if you have Google Docs, so let me just bring up my Google Docs. And you should be seeing a Google document up here. So if you use Google Docs and you have, I'm in Chrome, so it automatically said, oh, she's in Chrome, she's opening Google Docs, she wants this Zotero plugin because she downloaded the little extension. So if your extension is on the browser and you open your Google Docs, then it will automatically have a Zotero tab. And you can be typing away on your document. Say you want to put in a citation, just go to Zotero, add edit citation. And okay, allow it. No, I didn't think that was going to take that long. We'll come back to the Google Doc integration. So we'll look at Word. So in Word, I'm going to get rid of our copy pasted one. In Word, when you download the Zotero program, it will also download a Zotero plugin for your Word, Microsoft Word. So it looks like this right here. It sits up on your Zotero ribbon. And what you can do is you can add or edit a citation. So right here, you're going to select add edit citation. I wanted an APA style, which is fine. That's good. This is the traditional, or this is the new Zotero interface. I don't really like this one because you have to like remember what the name of the author is. I kind of prefer their classic view. So this is the classic view. It actually lets me see all of my Zotero stuff. And then I can click on what I want. I can add a page number if I want to. I can suppress the author if I use the author to introduce that quote. And when I click on OK, it's going to go ahead and put in that citation for me. Where'd you go? All right, this is interesting. I just did a workshop yesterday, so I'm not really sure why this isn't coming out here the way we want it. Let's try again. There we go. So it put in the citation for me in proper style. And then it's building my bibliography as I go. But if I want to see it, I can just click on add edit bibliography and it'll put that entry in for me. Now, something that's really important to understand. Notice when I click on these citations, they come up in gray, like they're all grayed out. That is because this is not text. This is an element. And this element is always talking to my Zotero program. So if I make a change here, and maybe I'm like, oh, this is a proper noun, this needs to be capitalized. It looks like it's done. But when I go and open my document again, it's going to go back to what it was. You must make changes to these citations in the original Zotero program. Okay. So I would need to actually go back to my Zotero library and make those changes here. And then they would show up in my Word document. Now, when you get ready to hand in your final document, you should unlink the citations. What I would suggest doing is making a copy and unlinking those citations in the copy so that you always have your original with a live integration, but that you have a copy that maybe you're sharing with your instructor. Because you don't want to send him something with those live Zotero links. This is also if you are doing drafts with your instructor, I highly recommend that you send them an unlinked copy as the draft that they're going to respond to. Because one of the things we found is that if instructors click in the middle of one of these and use Word to make a comment, it can sometimes wreak havoc on your citations, because now you've introduced a third program that's inside of something that's already talking to something else. So that is one caveat, is you do need to be careful if you're sending out documents and to have someone comment or share. Okay, so we are at 12:45. This is the end of our session today. So I hope this was a good introduction to Zotero. As I said, this session is recorded, so I'll be sending it out to everyone who attended today. If you have questions, please feel free to contact me, or you will find a little talk to chat with a librarian link at the bottom of every library page. You can use that to talk to a librarian. And the Zotero guide is a great place to get started. It walks you through that whole process of from download to ingesting your first citations and using it with Word. I think it'll take you, I mean, if you're talking about time investment, I'd say plan on spending about an hour to 90 minutes with Zotero from download to sort of walking through it. And you should be really ready to go after that. So if you got 90 minutes to spare, I think you can get to a point that's beyond beginner when it comes to using Zotero. So I'd like to give anybody an opportunity. I'm going to go ahead and actually end the recording at this point.